Hi, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. I think this will be a shorter TBR for November, a shorter video because I can't say too much, but let's just say I will be very busy in both December and January, hint hint, so my reading will be more structured in those months. So I think in November I am going to try and mood read, but there are some books that are really calling to me and my mood at the moment, books that I talked about in some past videos, particularly in my end of the year book tag. So let's just do it. I'm going to try and read books that I physically own and then maybe a few holiday ones to really start to get into the spirit. And then there are 3 new releases that are coming out in November that I want to prioritize. I realize when I make my TBRs for the month, I always forget to talk about the new releases that I want to read, which is silly because I always read 1 or 2. I put those new release most anticipated videos out every month and then I do read a couple of them, so I should probably talk about those in my TBR as well. So you're gonna see I have quite a few Fairy Loot editions that I want to read, but 2 that aren't Fairy Loot that I want to focus on, and they just feel November to me. One is one that I started and need to finish. Look, I've tabbed this and everything. Where's my bookmark? I'm exactly 100 pages into Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. This is so my vibe. If you've been around the channel for a minute, you know that I love a cozy fantasy. I like really lush writing. I've come to the conclusion this year that it's atmosphere over everything. Give me great atmosphere over great characters and plot. I don't know why. I know that that's not really a popular opinion, but I just love atmosphere and that's what this is giving, but also some great characters, and I was liking the plot even though it was slower. This is a 6 Swans, I think, is the original tale retelling where our main character's brothers are all turned into swans and she has to remain silent in order to save them. And I just think that this is exactly what I like. I think Juliette Marillier has the potential to be one of my favorite authors. I don't know why I put this down. I think I do. It's because of readathons and then I just never got back to it. I was saving it for the fall. It just feels like November, and I've been reading a lot of horror books, some darker things in October, so I think this is what I'm going to need. And then another book that kind of feels that way to me is Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. This is another retelling. Don't you just think that retellings in November go together? I don't know why I feel that way, but I do. This is one that has been recommended to me many times, especially because I have said that I want mythological retellings that aren't Greek. So this is one that has come up. It's definitely on the longer side, but I just think I'm going to fly through it because it's certainly one that appeals to me, and so many people, as I said, recommended this, especially in the comments, and I trust you all when you recommend me books. I typically like them, so that is high priority. So if I got to both of these in November, I would be thrilled. 2 more books that I talked about in my end of the year book tag video. They are Fairy Loot editions. They scream Transitional November to me. The first one is One Dark Window by Rachel Galag. The sequel to this is Two Dark Crowns just came out. That's been getting a lot of buzz already. Everybody seems to be picking up this first book again. It's got like new hype, new readership, and I really want to be a part of that. #1 description for this has been atmosphere, and I actually think that this is gothic, so you know gothic, any type of gothic story, that is peak atmosphere for me. And the main character in this has some kind of monster living in her head, and I'm really intrigued by that. Obviously you can tell by this cover, this is the Fairy Loot reverse dust jacket, that there's going to be a romance, and I love that if I love this I can also pick up the sequel. And then Spells for Forgetting, which is by Adrienne Young. I've never read anything by Adrienne Young, even though I feel like I'm gonna love her stuff. Her new book just came out, The Unmaking of June Farrow, and that is getting such great reviews, but I don't have that one. I feel like I have to try this one and see if I like her writing and connect with her stuff before I commit to reading her new one. And I think that she is known for her YA stuff, so this is something very different from her, but I think that this one and her new one have a similar tone and vibe, so I'm curious to see if I get along with that. I have a feeling that I will. I'm going into this prepared that even though I got this into Fairy Loot and they do fantasy, this is very, very low on the fantasy. I think it's Second Chance Romance, where these two were close when they were children and then somebody is murdered, and our hero in this is accused of that. He leaves town, comes back, and they try and solve the mystery of who really murdered this person. That is the basic understanding I have of this. I'm not sure how any of the fantastical elements come into play, but I'm curious to find out. Love the edges on this, and I'm just excited to experience my first book from Adrienne Young, who I know is also beloved. Then I have a sequel, Foxglove by Adeline Grace. This is the sequel to Belladonna, which I read in August, and it really surprised me. I really love that one. Again, that is gothic, super atmospheric. We definitely have a theme going on for November. If you're gonna give me the chance to mood read, these are just the kind of books that I am going to be drawn to the most. And the first book is following a character who can speak to death. That death in this book is personified, and I love death. I absolutely love him. The end of the first book doesn't end on a cliffhanger, but it ends on something that gets you excited for the sequel. So I was so excited that I was able to grab the Fairly edition of the sequel. It is beautiful. This is one of my favorite covers ever, and I've heard that this one stands up. It's just as good as the first book. And we just got a cover reveal for the American version of Wisteria, which is the third book, and I'm intrigued by the character on the front of this. I think this is really beautiful, but honestly I cannot wait for the UK cover reveal because these are just stunning and I love this series. So I'm excited to catch up on that. Gotta catch up on some series. This one's my #1 priority. This one is kind of random. It is a Fairly edition. I haven't heard many people talk about this, but when I look at my shelves, it calls to me. I don't know why. I think this is a YA fantasy. It's called Threads That Bind. And this is just gorgeous. I love this edition. I don't know much about it. It says the Moira born always came in 3, like the Moirae, the goddesses of fate themselves. The firstborn was a spinner who could weave new threads. The second was a drawer. She could elongate or shorten a thread, intensifying or weakening the corresponding feeling. And the youngest was the cutter, able to cut whatever thread she desires, even life threads. Cutters were the dangerous ones. So that definitely intrigues me. I think that this could be a really unique world that is being built in here, and I kind of like the fact that I know very little about it going in. I don't have any preconceived notions because I don't think I've seen anybody actually speak about this one yet. I haven't looked up reviews on Goodreads or anything. It's just calling to me from my shelves. It's on the shorter side, so I'm definitely going to try and get to that one. Now the 3 books that are coming out in November that I really want to read, the first one, no surprise, System Collapse by Martha Wells. This is the 7th book in the Murder Bot Diary series. I caught up with the series this year, absolutely adore it. I am so thrilled that we're finally getting the 7th book. I think we're getting a ton more in the series. Give me all the Murder Bot. If you know, you know. If you haven't read Murder Bot, you must at least try the first one. They're novellas, you'll love them. This one is the 2nd full-length novel, and I'm thrilled about that. And then in a similar vein, I have Calamity by Constance Fay. This is another sci-fi, but it's a sci-fi romance, and I am into that. I love a fantasy romance, but I have noticed something in my reading that as much as I love fantasy, sci-fi tends to be more successful for me. I just don't read it as often. I don't find there's as much available that appeals to me, but when something does appeal to me and I try it, I love it. So if you give me more romance in that genre, I think that it will really work for me. I read Winter's Orbit this year and loved it. Read the sequel, love that as well. But I haven't found a lot more within this niche, so I'm excited about this one. This is the debut from Tor's new romance imprint called Bramble, so I'm curious to see what kind of books that they are choosing to highlight in that imprint. This one sounds different. Again, I said this in my new release video, but if you give me like a misfit ragtag crew on a spaceship, I'm gonna love it. That all stems from my love of The Long Way to the Small and Greek Planet. But you make this one more of a romance. There are like subtle romances in that Becky Chambers series, but this one is romance at the forefront, it seems, and I think I'm gonna love it. And then I need something more contemporary, something fun, and the sequel to A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon is coming out. This is called A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch, and this is by Sarah Hawley. I think there's so much potential for this sequel to be amazing because we met the 2 characters in the first book and I loved them. Our heroine is the best friend of the main character from the first book, and I loved that she really stood up for herself. She's not meek at all. She'll be a very different character from the one we got in book 1. I don't even want to tell you how the hero comes into play, but they are very different, have very different outlooks on life. I'm curious to see how they have a romantic connection in the end, but you just know you're going to get great banter. These are witchy rom-coms, but there are also demons involved, and I'm excited that we'll probably get some cameos from the characters from the first book. I just love the whole setup. It's very contemporary, and I just know I'll fly through it and have a good time. And I hate that it's not coming out till the end of November, but I hope that I pick it up the day it comes out. And then I have 2 holiday books because I need to start reading my holiday reads in November. That is just how I am. The first one I actually have an ALC of from NetGalley because I love this series. I think this is the 4th book, I believe it is, in the Christmas Tree Farm mystery series. This is actually the series that got me into cozy mysteries to begin with. and they're just so fun. So this one's called Stalking Around the Christmas Tree. They all have punny titles. I know one is called Slashing Through the Snow. I just think they're so fun, and you're following this character. In the first one, she's obviously moved from the city back to her small town that centers around Christmas, and her parents own this Christmas tree farm where they put on all these festivities every year. Somebody ends up dead and she tries to solve the murder, and now she's having a romance with the police investigator. So I love that. I don't have any idea who dies in this fourth one. I don't really care. I just love these characters. I love her best friend. I love the hero in this as well, her parents. It's so cozy. If you really want a series to get you in the holiday spirit, this is the one. I marathoned the first 3 books when I discovered them. I think it was late November, early December a couple of years ago, and that was the most festive I had felt in a long time. It really worked. As I was putting up Christmas decorations and things, I had those on and it was the perfect vibe. So I'm excited that we're finally getting the 4th book. And then I had to put Mistletoe by Kimberly Lemming in here. This is a novella within the Mead Mishap series, which you know I love. I talk about it all the time. The first book is The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. This one is in between that one and the second book, and it seems to be kind of holiday-esque, at least wintry. I think there's a Winterfest in this. Some people have said that this is actually their favorite in the entire series. This is more of a short story within these novellas, so I'm curious to see how that plays out. This cover is so cute. I love this series so much. I adore Kimberly Lemming. I've been saving the book for November/December, so I am so excited that the time is here and I finally get to read it. So I'm sure, actually I know that I won't get to all of these and that I'll pick up other things, you know, that's just how mood reading goes. But these are the ones that I really hope to prioritize. I hope to make a huge dent in these because, as I said, I'm just in the mood for atmosphere, and that's what these are all giving to me. And we're getting some new exciting releases in November I want to prioritize, and of course the holiday feels. So let me know what you plan to read in November. If you've read any of the books that are on my TBR, I'd love to know your thoughts on them. Let's discuss. Thank you again for your support. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.